In the last lecture, we discussed about the various steps that included in requirements analysis and specification. Now, we will move to the next topic, how to do the specification of the document. Let us look at the analysis of the gathered requirements. So, this is the second task in requirements process. In the requirements process, the main focus of analysis is to identify the requirements problem. For this, we have to go through all the gathered requirements and clearly understand the customer needs, and then we analyze to identify and remove requirements problems. There are three main problems that typically exist in gathered requirements. These are called as inconsistencies, ambiguity and incompleteness. Let us try to find out what are these three problems: inconsistency, ambiguity and incompleteness, and how to identify these problems. Now, first let us look at the ambiguity problem. Ambiguity, as the name says, is that the requirements is vague. It is not clear, it is not precise. It can have multiple meanings. Let's start by taking an example. Let's say one of the requirements that was obtained to have the same control field for all the end users and customers. This is actually an ambiguous requirement where all the customers have the same control field. What are the problems here? The problems is that different interpretations are possible. All customers have the same control field. Does it mean that the one control field is shared with the multiple customers? And if one customer changes it, other customers are able to cheat and so on? Or is it that similar control fields are present with the different customers? We need to discuss with the customer to check what was really meant. There is only one control field which is shared among customers, where an action done by one customer also affects the other customers, or is it that they have similar but different control fields? Now, let's look at an example of an inconsistent requirement. As the name says, in the inconsistent requirement, some requirement contradicts some other requirement. For example, let's say one customer says that turn off the heater and open water shower when the temperature and the chemical reactor exceeds 100 degrees centigrade. But then another customer has given the requirement saying turn off the heater and turn on the cooler, but not the water shower when the temperature exceeds 100 degrees centigrade. So, when the temperature exceeds 100 degrees centigrade, the action to be taken is contradictory. Need to discuss with the customer which one is the correct one. Incomplete requirement is a third strategy of problems where we need to identify all the incomplete requirements and eliminate them. Incomplete requirements are the requirements that a customer has forgot. Just for an example, the customer has not recorded when the temperature falls below 90 degrees centigrade. They says when the temperature is greater than 100 degrees centigrade, do something. But then on the lower side of the temperature has not recorded any action to be taken. So that is an incomplete requirement. We should have actually recorded that when the temperature is less than 90 degree, heater should be again turned on and the water shower should be turned off to maintain the temperature between 90 and 100. During the analysis of the gathered requirement, must understand the gathered requirements well and then remove the ambiguities, inconsistencies and incompleteness from the gathered requirements. It looks like to be a simple work, but it is actually a difficult task. Without having a depth understanding of the problem, based on what the customers have in their minds, it is difficult to analyze the problem. The person who analyzes the gathered requirements and specifies is typically called as analyst. And the analyst take time to completely understand the customer's need, doing analysis and specify. They devote a lot of time here because this is a difficult task. The experienced analyst knows that it is worthwhile spending a little bit more time to understand the requirement gathering and analysis. Because unless we have a clear understanding of what is to be done, it is impossible to develop a satisfactory solution. During the gathering of requirements and analysis, several things must be clearly understood, that what are the problems that the users want to solve, what features are needed and how can this be implemented. Because if the user wants to do something very far which is difficult to implement, we should not really accept that. We should change modifications to that which can be meaningfully solved, and then must understand what are the complexities while solving the problem. Even though the analysis activity carried out very thoroughly, still some problems may remain. Using formal specification technique, very critical software can be developed, because formal specification is a very expensive, time consuming task. Is some part of the software extremely sensitive, that is critical parts, we can have a formal specification after he has developed the requirement specification document. Now, after we have removed all inconsistencies, anomalies, incompleteness from the document, we go about documenting the requirements. Now, let us see how to write the SRS document. This is a very important skill. Let us see how to go about. Let us look at the specification task, that is how to document the requirements. Here, we have the gathered requirements and all the problems from them have been removed through the analysis activity, and now we get down to systematically organize the requirements and then document them properly. The SRS document is a very important document used by various users, and SRS document should be written such that it can be understood and useful to different users, because users may look for different type of informations in the SRS. It serves as a statement of the user's need. It is a contract. It is a contract between user and the developer. It is a reference document for the development team to start the development work. It is an important document for the testers to design test cases, and also it is a definition of the problem based on which the developers start to develop the work. The SRS document should be written in the form of black box specification. What do you mean by black box specification of the problem? The black box specification is actually the functionality that can be observed externally, that is, what is the input to the system and what gets output by the system. The system appears as a black box where we don't know what input data, which function here involved, and what it does to get the output. But we know that we will be input, and based on this what output will be generated. That is input output behavior. The internal details we should not document or try to document. We just document the input output behavior of the system. In other words, you can say that SRS document should focus us on what needs to be done based on the input data rather than how to do. The requirement document should be written in end user technology, because It is end users who will see whether all the requirements have been satisfactorily represented. It's written as a document which can be understood by several type of users, that is the end user, the testers, the project manager, the development team members and so on. But then if some parts are very critical, then for that separate formal requirement specification document can be written. Now let's see, before starting to write document, we have to see what should be the sections, how would we go about writing the subsections and so on. Now let's see the overall what exactly is a good SRS document. A good SRS document should not be too verbose. It should be used the minimum writing that is needed. Should be concise and at the same time should not leave out details, otherwise it will be ambiguous. It should be a black box specification, should specify what the system must do and not say how to do it. It should be easy to change, that is, if some functionality changes, we should be able to change very quickly. But how do we ensure that it is a document that is easy to change? For that we have to structure it well. Like if you want to change one functionality, we need to change it in one place, should not have to change in multiple different places. A good SRS also should be consistent. Different functionalities represented in the SRS document should be consistent and should be complete, and also it should be traceable. Traceable means for a specific functionality we should be able to identify the functionality which is implemented by the part of the design, which part of the code and so on. To be able to have traceability, the first thing is that we should structure them properly. We should structure the document properly. For example, the functions are to be precisely written. Each function should be identified by a number or by some ID and should be written at one place. And also, for a given code segment, suppose we found an error in a code segment, then we should be able to tell which functionalities would have got affected. So, traceability is very important concept while writing SRS. Also, in the other way, given a code element should be able to tell it implements which part of the design and also which functionality. The SRS document should be written in a way such that it is verifiable to easily write test cases and we can check whether the requirement is satisfied or not. If you have a requirements like, let's say the developed software should be user friendly, it is very difficult to test. Even if we test for user friendly, then it might not be accepted by some users. So this is a very difficult requirement to verify. While writing requirement, we have to ensure that every requirement can be tested satisfactorily. SRS document should not include not only the how to aspects but other things like, let's say, project development plans like what will be the cost, staffing schedule, tools to be used, etc. Because the SRS document is used even after the development work complete. So the lifetime of the development plans is till the development completes. But the SRS document is required after the development work also. Similarly, it should not include testing assurance plans, configuration management, test plans, quality assurance because they have different audience and different lifetime. SRS document has several audiences and we write only those aspects which are interest to all the audience. the designs, etc., they are also not to be included. Now let's see how to go about writing the SRS document. These are the 4 important parts in any good SRS document. Possibly the most important part is the functional requirements, and then we must identify the external interfaces. The external software and hardware with which the software needs to interact, and the users, and then the non-functional requirements. In the non-functional requirements, we document some requirements which cannot be specified as function. What is the difference between a functional and non-functional requirement? SRS document have a section on the non-functional requirements and what are the various constraints on the system. For example, one constraint may be that it has to follow certain standards, or maybe that it has to use an open source database. First, we will see the details of functional requirements because this is the most important part of the SRS document. Here we identify what are the functionalities or facilities that the software will offer to the users and what we document it in the form of the input. We have to mention the output that will be produced, and also we have to mention that what would happen when the users gives invalid inputs. Identifying the functional requirements is a very important skill. Just to give an example, let's say we have to develop a library software. To identify the functional requirements, we have to see what the facilities it provides. For example, let's say a library software. We have to look at who are the different users, the librarian, and then the library members, and possibly the accountant. Now then, we have to look at what are the facilities required by each type of users. A library member might like to issue book, return book, query whether the book is available, etc. The librarian might like to create members, it like to delete members, might like to check if there is fine against anybody, might like to create books, delete books, etc. The accountant might like to check what is the financial position, might like to enter the grants, might like to enter the fees, might like to register the expenses, and so on. So from each user's perspectives, we have to look at the software teams of the facilities provided, and each facility is basically some meaningful work that the user can accomplish using. And once you have identified the functional requirements, each functional requirement we need to document. For every function, we need to describe what will be achieved and what are the approaches and techniques that will be deployed, and also need to identify the input and output. Typically, every function requires an input. It does something, some processing, and produces some output. For example, a query book function for a library software. The user gives the name of the book. So that is an input. The software checks the book database for those books which match the user query, and then it produces the output. So every functional requirement must be documented in the form of an overview of what the functionality will achieve, and then if possible, we need to identify the input and output. For every functionality, it may not be feasible to produce the input and output. We will look at more details of how to document the functional requirements. So, one thing must be clear from this lecture is that what is the functional requirement. So, a functional requirement is a facility provided by the software using which user can get some meaningful piece of work done. So, after the requirements gathering and analysis, we will get a detailed document known as the SRS document.